why sound? Why the word Soundwalk Collective?
It started from coming out of art school in New York in the 90s, early 90s. I was trained more as a painter initially, then I started to play with video, and then I thought I got into art history. I done a master's and PhD, and then I discovered sound quite late in the process of studying through different mediums, and then I started to work with video, and then video was maybe not something I was so interested, but then the sound suddenly out of the video came, and then I started to be interested by the flexibility of sound and the idea that sound could be also recorded. And then I started to walk into New York City and suddenly realized that with sound I could start to do. I was studying at the same time for my PhD situationist.
Yes.
And the détournement was very of a great interest for me, and all those mapping with rechanging the name of streets was something of an awakening experience with sound. Suddenly I was thought, oh, I can change the name of the street. In a sense, I could change the narrative. And then it was just walking with sound walk. And I started to do first little walks in my neighborhoods with my neighbors, and started to say, oh, what about if I do those old cassette tape, early 90s, and create narrative where I will change the storytelling and I will use reality and détournement of the reality with sound. Sound has a very powerful quality in not being questioned. I mean, you don't question the sound you're hearing. Often you can question what you're looking at. But with sound, you can create a décalage or a détournement sonically, and suddenly you are putting a finger into the relation to reality. And suddenly I would do those tapes, and I would take people for walks in my neighborhoods. I would bring people in apartment of friends of mine, and literally you will have a headphone and you're entering in other people's life, and I will create story that are
But
fictional.
it has some plastic virtue?
Well, yeah, I mean, I thought this would be an art format that has the ability to just produce some glitches in the realities. I just loved the idea that you could do something very ephemeral, very light, very simple as just a sound.
But how to display that?
I initially had just those cassettes, and then the Whitney Museum back then was interested by those little projects, and they were the first one who commissioned. And then NPR in New York, the radio format, was interested in it. And so I had few people, and then France Culture and Dutch Radio. It was a very kind of under the radar, minimal, because sound was not of interest for anyone. So I was using platform like radio and sometimes local museum that would be interested to push those cassettes.
But you were speaking about yourself as an artist?
Yes. I mean, I was interested, but again, coming from art, studying art, I didn't want to do the classic path of going through galleries, and I was not interested, as most of my friends, to entering through the classic cursus of art and galleries. I wanted to be free. I didn't want to be part of a system for a long time when I was studying
and
in
so
New York.
that's how you introduce, you use also the word collective?
Yeah, and later on, I end up to do a lot of collaboration, and people who I will work for long term, I just thought this sound walk could be a platform to bring a lot of other artists that I'm interested in and offer them a collaboration with sound where we could do a different type of work project, and so progressively it morphed from Soundwalk, which was my early part of work with sound, to more sometimes installation based or album concept, or still a Soundwalk format like I done in Venice for the pavilion of the Vatican. But suddenly I would vary in how we use sound. Not necessarily.
It's you who have done the pavilion this year with Hans Ulrich Obrist in the garden?
Yes, and Hans Ulrich asked me to do this sound walk. So he created the pavilion of the Vatican and asked me to come in and to do this Soundwalk format. And so I invited all those other artists with entourage, and then I recomposed this format on homage to Hildegard of Bingen. So it was a contemplative walks into this garden of monks. You know.
Yesterday he told me that he never received such letters as he received for this pavilion. That people were really
moved,
yes.
Very deeply moved. And for me it's interesting because I've been doing this for 30 years, you know, so it's not like I have, but you know, it's timing. It's funny because, you know, things come maybe, think you do thing, and I never had a much of a vision of where this will take me. I just done it because it was just working really well with my lifestyle and the way I wanted to live.
But I was bothered by something.
Yeah.
Which is you can't hear the birds anymore if you put the headphone.
No, so it's a good point. We made it exactly the opposite. We used those headphones that are bleeding headphones. So those headphones are specific because they allow you to hear the outside. So the sound you're hearing, the music or the ambient sound you're hearing on this headphone is bleeding with the sound of the outside. So those are open headphones. So they are usually used in studio, really for the outside, but we made it exactly for this reason, to be sure that we hear both sound. The one that was conceived for this experience and nice. This one outside, and they're both bleeding to each other.
Yes, I was afraid to miss the birds.
You will never miss a bird.
Merci.
And also because in the mystic of Saint François d'Assise and a lot of this spiritual quest that in Hildegard, she had invented this word viriditas. Mm-hmm. So it's a word of green truth, in a sense, if you had to translate this word of vérité, the truth, and the other is the truth in nature. And so birds and animals and plants, all of that Soundwalk in the pavilion is an homage to nature.
Yeah. So, but let's come to Arles.
Yes.
And this project.
Yeah.
Correspondence.
Yeah.
So, how did you invent that? What's the story?
It's as most of what happened in my life, a counter, accident, coincidence, or synchronicity, whatever you call it. I was just recording in the Balkan, in Macedonia and Serbia and Kosovo, gypsy music, Zigan, Roma music. I was doing a project back in the days for Arte, and I was just spent 2 years recording them. I was flying back home in New York. I had a stop in Paris on my flight from Macedonia to Paris to New York, and Patti was coming Patti Smith was coming from Tangier, and she had also a stopover to New Paris. And in our connection flight to Paris to New York, she ended up to be sitting next to me. So we just literally by pure accident were sitting next to each other. And then I was having with me the last poem of Nico that her son Harry gave me, and I had those recueil of poems because I wanted to do a piece on the last poem of Nico and her death in the island of Ibiza, mid-July '87. So I was reading that. Patti was next to me, and she looked at those, and she asked me what it was, and I explained what those poems and what I had in mind. I wanted to record cricket, just pure sound of cricket. The day of her death in this island. And she said to me, do you have anyone reading this? And I said, no, I didn't thought about reading them. I just thought it was just a sound, purely sound session of cricket sound. And she said, would you allow me to record them? Would you like me to do this, to record those poems? Because I was really close to her. And I told her, yeah, sure, it'd be fantastic to do this. And then the next day she buzzed at my door in my studios. I'm living in Soho, very close to where she's living, and she just climbed up, she just walked up the stairs, and she said, let's do it, let's record. So she just literally a day after that, we were already recording. This was 15 years ago, and since that, we never stopped. We've been recording a lot of different projects.
And so if we speak about this specific project in Arles, sorry.
So this
how many screens?
So this is 5 screens, but multiplied by 2, so we're talking about 8 screens plus 9 screens. They all corresponding with each other. It's Correspondence is so we've done few projects with Patti, albums on different projects, on different journey I will take. So I went a lot in Ethiopia. I was very interested by Sufism. We done an homage to Arthur Rimbaud in Ethiopia with Philip Glass and Patti. I've done another project in India on René Domal and the Montana Log, and another one on Mexico. I was spending a lot of time around Copa Canyon and the peyote culture and Tamarora Indian culture with Antonin Artaud journey in 34. So those was all like how we started to work with Patti on those projects. And then 10 years ago, there was a decision that we will do a correspondence idea, that I will go and I do what I do, travel all over the world, come back with sound, be in studio with her, and just develop a body of work that will be more her personal work, her writing, her poetry, inspired by the sound I will bring her. That is what is today, Correspondence. 10 years later.
We don't understand where the images come from.
So it's a combination, that image of my filming, when I'm traveling, filming some of those journey I'm taking, and some of others, something I've been developing with Jean-Luc Godard and other people I've been working with, B-rolls, a lot of archive sound that has never been used, that have left behind, whether it's Pasolini, Andrei Tarkovsky, or Godard here. There's a lot of leftover image that are in relation to what we've been working on. So the entire concept
But
of
leftover?
Meaning B-roll, meaning cut out of the movie.
And so how do you
Frame.
find them?
Because whether because I know some of the filmmaker, or I very close to the sons of Tarkovsky, for example, the estate of
And
Pasolini.
what about Pasolini?
Same thing, close to the estate of Pasolini.
So it's image which have never been seen.
Exactly.
That's incredible.
Yeah,
So you are in charge of the image and the sound.
Yes, yeah.
The image is you.
Yes, yeah.
D'accord.
So it varied whether I film them or I take leftover tapes or image that has not been used, and I'm re-editing them on the soundtrack. So Correspondence ideas is that, most of the time sound is at the service of image. So you make a movie and then you think about the music after. It's always how it works. Sound is always serving the image. And here was the opposite idea. We do the soundtrack first, and then we look for image who will serve the soundtrack.
And what is your field director in the choice of images?
Well, for example, you use Pasolini as an example. So, we have a common passion with Patti on Pasolini, and Patti is very versed in Pasolini. And then talking about Pasolini, I was telling her about, I've been spending a lot of time in Georgia, and I was a lot recording on the myth of Medea. And then we were talking, Pasolini movie on Medea is only the most exceptional piece he done with Maya Callas, and this was his movie on Medea. So suddenly there was but there's a relation between Medea and Pasolini. So I have all those recordings of the myth and the sound of Georgia on the coast of where Medea, with Jason left. And then we have all those sounds also that have been recording on the beach where Pasolini got killed. And then I spent a lot of time in Rome because I'm also very close to Abel Ferreira, who was making this movie with William Dafoe on the last night of Pasolini. And that is something 10 years ago when I was shooting, Abel called me and said, do you want to come over on the set? And if you want to record that, you could record the set. So I just went there and recorded the set of the movie with William Dafoe, and I never done anything with it. I just left it there on a hard drive.
So it's a lot of stories of friendship.
Yeah, it's only friendships. It's only time spent with people I care for and that I love for and that I want to spend time with. And sometimes the sounds just stay, and then later on, over a conversation with Patti, something click. Okay, Pasolini, Medea, we can make an A and B side. Like if you see
so
this
what do you want the effect to be on the viewer?
I mean, the idea here, I think, is all idea of portal. You can walk through the screen, you can enter this cabinet. Those are all entrance points. There's no beginning and end on those movies. You can see them in multiple angles. They can multiply themselves. They can correspond. If you're looking straight through the cross, you can see a Medea meeting a Pasolini. They're both talking about death and sex, in a sense, because you have the scene of the last scene that Pasolini was trying to shoot over and over, which is Medea taking her two boys on the roof to push the boys out, to kill the boys, and then you have an image of Pasolini last night with the young boys and getting killed on the beach. And so they're both talking about, final hours, but they're also talking about creative process. And then you have also poetry in the writing of Patti, which is all about also this relation to creation and death. So in a specific part of this work, but there's many different themes here.
But what do you want people to feel when they get inside?
I mean, I think most of what I experience when people see those pieces of works are very, there's a lot of inspiration, a lot of, it's a very creative process. It's sharing a creative process in Correspondence. We're sharing a conversation and a creative process. And I think a lot of people who go there, they're coming oftenly with they got very inspired by. It's something that usually, what I love to imagine is that this body of work inspired other people to also go through different creative process or feel, or have a feeling or a meaning of it.
Because when you go there, it's almost abstract.
Yeah.
You grab some images and some sound, but everything is abstract in a way.
Well, depending if you spend a bit more time to read and to understand, and if you are touched by, let's say, the Pasolini or a media, but if you stay a bit longer, you might see a series of burning forest or animals extension. So it's a 3 hours loops of different sound and different journeys that we took. So you might be more touched, let's say, by cinema or by poetry, or you might be more touched about environment or about politics with the Prince of Anarchy. So there's multiple points of entrance for you, depending which might be your sensibility.
And it's an evolving process.
It's an evolving process, and everything corresponds with each other. So all the screens are talking to each other because they all have different images.
No, but I mean in time.
In time,
You
yes.
make
It's
it evolve all the time.
it's the idea of a friendship, no? And 10 years spent talking like we do, walking in cities, getting inspired by what we see and what we look at, and then trying to share the fabrics of this correspondence and this inspiration.
And what is the next stop?
Well, there's always a next stop. I've been here for a year, more or less. We've done 2 new pieces in homage to the Three Marys. I was very interested to Marie Magdalene. And Sainte Marie, because Sainte Marie, what really struck me is the relation to water. The well is where they built the Church of Sainte Marie. And the well was before, in Roman time and preview, there was always worshipping around this water because it was only the clean, drinkable water in the entire swamp of Camargue. Then I went to the cave of Marie Magdalene where her skull is and her...
Where is it?
It's like an hour from here in a mountain. It's a cave where Dominican monastery is located, and they hold the ground and it's the most charged spiritual place I've ever been in my life. When you enter the cave, it's so intensely, emotionally mystical. I mean, whether you're a believer or not, it just moves you deeply. So, and her skull of Magdalena is there. And so I spent nights and weeks there recording with the monks the dripping of water at nighttime, because it's all a dripping water experience again in the cave.
Wow.
So, for example, being here, being inspired by this region, the story of Marie Magdalene and the Three Marys who left Palestine as immigrants, running away from persecution, arriving here, as any immigrant today will try to do, and all those boats that have sink into the sea in Camargue and the Rhône is where I went, and I went to film all those boats underwater of sinking water.
Is there a boat?
There's hundreds and thousands of boats of Roman time, from the time of Marie Magdalene, but also more recent boats who are still sinking, trying to cross the sea to run away from persecution. So I thought it was very interesting how we see migration, what we think of migration, how we think of who and what, and
But on that time it was about evangelization.
No, it was persecution.
No,
and of course
the story of the Three Marys, Madeleine, Sarah, and Jacobet, is about giving the Christ to the people.
Exactly. So evangelism, France became Christian in this time. So they were part of this migration of Catholicism, and as we know it today, from the persecution of Palestine. So they were running away from persecution, and they arrived in France, here in this region. And so the evangelization happened here through those 3 women. But what I was also very interested in is the relation to the skull and to the bones, and how we're using this as a worshipping, And so, for example, this was the piece we made here, this new piece we made here on homage to Marie Magdalene. But what I was also really interested is the melting of the glacier, which are in relation to the swamp here. The entire Camargue is depending of the glacier melting in the Alps. And so the water worshipping in Sainte Marie-la-Mère of the church, and the melting of the ice, and Marie Magdalene, and all of that became something for Patti and I as subject of great interest. And she wrote 2 pieces about the melting of glaciers and Marie Magdalene, which are the 2 new pieces we're presenting here.
Oh, merci beaucoup. Thank you.